They say Atlantis was just a myth, a fable dreamed up by philosophers, a story swallowed by the sea and lost to time. But what if I told you? The story of Atlantis is not fiction. It's a veiled memory, echoing across cultures, buried in stone and encoded in ancient texts. A warning and a prophecy, all at once. A utopian empire of immense wisdom, unmatched technology, and spiritual mastery that vanished in a single day and night of fear and flood. It sounds like legend, until you realize this same tale repeats across Sumerian tablets, Egyptian scrolls, Mayan codices, and even biblical floods, all telling of a great civilization that rose beyond its soul and was struck down by the cosmos itself. Plato wrote of Atlantis not as metaphor, but as history passed down from Egyptian priests. He described its capital in geometric perfection, rings of land and water, glowing with orichalcum, a metal unknown to modern science. But here's the question they don't want you to ask. Why did so many ancient cultures preserve the same story? Why would the details align if it were merely a myth? And more importantly, what if Atlantis didn't just fall? What if it imploded, spiritually, cosmically, karmically, because it forgot one sacred truth? This video isn't just about a sunken island. It's about a lost key to human evolution. A forgotten cycle of rise, pride, fall, and rebirth. Stay with me as we unlock the esoteric secrets hidden in ancient texts, clues left behind by priesthoods, mystics, and stargazers who remembered what most of us have forgotten. Atlantis was not just a place, it was a state of consciousness. And the question isn't whether it existed in the past, but whether it's returning in us. Long before Atlantis became a New Age fantasy or Hollywood spectacle, it was whispered in temple corridors. A memory, not a myth. The earliest and most explicit mention of Atlantis comes from Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, written in the 4th century BCE. He claimed the story was relayed to his ancestor Solon, a great Athenian lawgiver, during a visit to Sais, Egypt, where high priests held records far older than any Greek lineage. The priests said, "You Greeks are like children. You remember nothing of what once was." Then they spoke of a mighty land beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a land that ruled over parts of Europe and Africa, rich in knowledge and power, until it fell, swallowed by water and earth. But here's the riddle. Why would Egyptian priests safeguard the story of a foreign island empire? Because in the eyes of the ancients, time was not linear, it was cyclical. Atlantis wasn't a single event. It was one cycle of many, a cosmic rhythm of civilizations rising in harmony, then collapsing when they betray divine law. The Maya spoke of past suns or ages, each destroyed by a different element, earthquakes, floods, fire from the sky. The Vedic scriptures call it yuga cycles, spiritual ages, each more degenerate than the last. The Hopi, Dogon, and even the Norse shared similar stories of worlds lost and reborn. So when Plato spoke of Atlantis, he wasn't creating fiction. He was echoing a memory buried in the DNA of all ancient cultures. A warning encrypted in allegory to be understood only by those with eyes to see. The esoteric schools, Hermeticists, Rosicrucians, Theosophists, all held that Atlantis was real. But they added something deeper. Atlantis was a spiritual civilization that fell not just because of cataclysm, but because of hubris, the arrogance of knowledge without wisdom, power without humility. They say the Atlanteans once wielded energy drawn directly from the Earth's grid lines, the ley lines, a technology lost to us today. They could manipulate matter, perhaps even consciousness, but as their pride grew, they turned this power toward domination, genetic experimentation, and egoic control. And so the Earth, like a mother, cleansed herself. Could this be why so many ancient texts speak of a great deluge? the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, the biblical story of Noah, the Aztec and Incan myths of floods that wiped out entire races. Are they all fragments of the same event? Or perhaps fragments of the same warning? Atlantis is not merely a tragedy of the past. It is a mirror held up to us now. We too stand on the precipice of great technological power. We too believe we are gods. But have we remembered the sacred laws that governed the Atlanteans before their fall? This, dear seeker, is why the story was never meant to be forgotten. Because Atlantis may not lie buried in the ocean. It may lie buried in the collective memory of mankind, waiting to be awakened before we repeat the same fall. Atlantis, a land where the sky touched the earth, where crystal towers hummed with invisible power, and priests spoke the language of the stars. But what if the story of Atlantis is not just about a physical place, but a symbol, an esoteric key pointing to something within us? Let's return to Plato's account, not as a philosopher, but as an initiate. He describes Atlantis as a vast island empire beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. Its rulers descended from Poseidon, god of the seas and earthquakes, and its capital was built in concentric rings, alternating land and water. A structure that eerily resembles sacred mandalas and even the shape of the human energy field. Was this merely architecture or a map of cosmic balance? Plato said Atlantis was a civilization advanced beyond comprehension. They mastered metallurgy, engineering, agriculture, and even spiritual sciences. They harnessed the power of crystals, the Earth's magnetic field, and perhaps even sound frequencies. Many esoteric traditions claim they understood vibration as the fundamental fabric of reality, what ancient mystics called the music of the spheres. This knowledge wasn't invented, it was inherited. In secret chambers, Atlantean priest-scientists preserved what they called the Law of One, the understanding that all things are interconnected, part of a living consciousness. They believed that when man aligns with this law, he becomes more than flesh, he becomes divine. But as time passed, something changed. The sacred sciences were corrupted. The spiritual became technological. Power shifted from the temples to the laboratories. Some texts, like the readings of Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, speak of two Atlantean factions, the sons of the Law of One, who sought harmony, and the sons of Belial, who pursued material gain and domination. These factions clashed over the soul of Atlantis, not through war alone, but through philosophy, ethics, and energy. One chose unity, the other chose control. And here lies the heart of the esoteric teaching. Atlantis did not fall because of nature. It fell because of imbalance. It's a story as old as time. When a civilization forgets the divine source that empowered it, when wisdom bows to greed, and sacred knowledge becomes a weapon. The fall is inevitable, but here's where it gets even stranger. Some researchers believe remnants of Atlantis survived, not just in myths, but in the stones of Göbekli Tepe, in the layout of the pyramids of Giza, in the myths of Thoth, who said he came from a lost land across the seas, bringing knowledge to Egypt, and in the esoteric legend that survivors of Atlantis seeded the world with wisdom, founding mystery schools, secret brotherhoods, and hidden libraries. Could it be that Atlantis never truly vanished, but was simply veiled, hidden in plain sight? If so, what other clues have been left behind? And more importantly, who left them? Atlantis is not just a lost continent. It is a forgotten memory buried in the collective soul of humanity. This is not metaphor, it's mystery. Let's begin with a radical idea held by mystics, theosophists, and ancient initiates. Atlantis is us, a reflection of human consciousness before the fall. A time when we remembered who we truly were. In esoteric schools such as the Hermetic Order and Rosicrucians, Atlantis is not a fantasy of stone and sand, but a symbol of a primordial golden age, a period when humanity lived in harmony with cosmic laws. This idea is echoed in the Hindu Satya Yuga, the Egyptian Zep Tepi, and even in the Mesoamerican myths of the first sun. But what if these were all the same story told in different tongues? In Plato's dialogue, Atlantis falls around 9,000 years before his time, roughly 11,600 years ago. Interestingly, this date aligns with a cataclysm known in geology as the Younger Dryas impact event, a sudden shift in global temperatures, massive floods, and extinction-level changes. Could the mythical Great Flood have been real? And was it not divine punishment, but a cosmic reset? Ancient texts all around the world speak of this flood. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the biblical Genesis, the Popol Vuh, and even the Sumerian Eridu Genesis, always the same theme. A once great civilization falls, and the survivors preserve its secrets. But here's where the story takes a forbidden turn. In the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, an Atlantean priest-king claims to have fled the destruction and traveled to Kem, what we now call Egypt. There he hid the keys to wisdom beneath the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid. Modern seekers like Edgar Cayce, whose trance readings described Atlantis in stunning detail, spoke of a hall of records buried beneath the paw of the Sphinx. Archaeological scans have even revealed unexplained chambers in that very spot. Yet access remains strictly forbidden. What are they hiding beneath the sands of Giza? Others point to Antarctica, hypothesizing that its icy veil once covered an ancient advanced land. Satellite images have revealed strange formations, geometric patterns that suggest artificial origins. Could the poles have shifted, literally, and buried Atlantis in ice? Meanwhile, scholars dismiss these ideas, but esoteric traditions care little for scholarly approval. They speak to the soul, not the syllabus. They tell us, Atlantis never truly vanished. It was fractured, its wisdom scattered into the mystery schools of Egypt, the myths of Greece, the chakras of India, the medicine wheels of the Americas. The Atlantean spark now lies dormant in us, waiting to be remembered. This is where the tale becomes urgent, because esoteric teachings warn that Atlantis fell not by accident, but by choice. A choice between unity and control, between spiritual law and artificial power. And that same choice stands before us today. Technology rises, empires grow, but the soul of humanity, is it ascending or repeating Atlantis's mistake? Are we once again walking the Atlantean path, this time toward another fall? The purpose of remembering Atlantis is not nostalgia. It is warning and awakening. Because if we learn from what was lost, we may yet reclaim what was sacred. So, was Atlantis real? Perhaps not in the way we imagine with our modern eyes, but in the realm where myth, memory, and meaning converge. Atlantis was and is very real. It was the echo of a higher age, a civilization that reached for the stars, not through machines, but through mastery of self. A people who lived in harmony with the laws of nature, the cosmos, and the divine essence within. But Atlantis fell, not because of fate, but because of forgetting. Forgetting the sacred laws, forgetting the divine spark within, forgetting that we are more than flesh and power. We are spirit and purpose, and that is the true warning. You see, Atlantis is not just a lost continent. It is a mirror held up to our present world. Look around. Technological wonders, artificial intelligence, cities that shine in the night, but hearts that grow hollow, souls that search for meaning in machines. And once again, knowledge without wisdom threatens to consume us. Will we repeat the fall, or will we remember? hidden in the ancient texts, in forgotten temples, in whispered myths, are clues not just to where Atlantis was, but to who we were and who we could be again. This isn't just about uncovering a city beneath the sea. It's about recovering something far more precious, the memory of what it means to be truly human. So ask yourself, what if Atlantis is not something you find on a map, but something you awaken in your soul? Could it be that Atlantis isn't lost at all, but waiting inside of you? If this message stirred something within you, if you felt the call of ancient memory rise like a wave, then don't let it fade. Like, comment with your thoughts, and share this with fellow seekers. And if you wish to explore more forgotten truths, subscribe and walk this path with us. The past is not gone. It is hidden, and it is calling.